Chapter 15. Ethan. Silver Ridge was every bit as picturesque as I'd imagined: charming old buildings, narrow streets with cobblestones, and the backdrop of snow-capped mountains making it look like something out of a postcard. But as we wandered through the town, I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong here. This place was for people who could drop $1,000 on a jacket without thinking twice. My girls didn't even own designer clothes, and I wasn't exactly someone who blended into the background in a place like this. I walked behind Victoria, Samantha, and the girls, trying to stay out of the way while they explored. I wasn't much for shopping, but it was nice to see the girls so excited, especially after everything they'd been through. As we passed by another boutique, I noticed a couple of women glancing my way. At first, I figured it was just because I looked out of place in my flannel and worn jeans, but then one of them smiled and approached me. Blonde. Pretty, and couldn't have been more than 20. "Excuse me," she said, her voice a little hesitant, "could we take a picture with you?" I blinked, caught off guard. Sure, I guess," I replied, still trying to figure out why on earth they'd want a picture with me. The women giggled, and one of them handed her phone to the other, who quickly snapped a photo. They thanked me, their faces lit up with excitement, and walked away, whispering to each other. I stood there, feeling more confused than ever. Why would anyone want a picture with me? I wasn't anyone special. Just a guy who worked with his hands and tried to keep his kids safe. As I turned to keep walking, I noticed Victoria watching me from a few steps away. She raised an eyebrow, a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "You seem to be quite popular," she remarked, her tone light but curious. I shrugged, trying to downplay the weirdness of the situation. "I guess I just look like someone they know," I said, hoping that would be enough to brush it off. The last thing I needed was to draw more attention to myself. She shrugged and continued walking. I tried to put the strange encounter out of my mind, but it stuck with me. Why would those women want a picture with me? I walked through the quaint streets, trying to enjoy the day despite the strange looks and unexpected attention. I was pulled out of my thoughts when I heard Victoria greet someone warmly. "Juliet, darling. It's been far too long." I turned to see Victoria hugging a tall, elegant woman who looked like she belonged in a magazine. She was something to behold: polished, sophisticated, and probably someone who could tell a mile away that I didn't belong here. Victoria introduced me, and I extended my hand, offering a polite smile. "I'm Ethan." "Nice to meet you." Juliet shook my hand, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she were trying to place where she'd seen me before. "The pleasure is mine," she said, still looking at me with that same curious expression. "You're quite the hero, I hear." I shifted uncomfortably. "Just doing what anyone would have done." Juliet smiled politely, unconvinced by my modesty. Victoria, however, seemed to pick up on my discomfort and quickly suggested that I follow the girls while she caught up with Juliet. I nodded, grateful for the excuse to escape the scrutiny. I walked out of the shop, catching a glimpse of Samantha and the girls inside another store, their faces lit up with excitement as they looked at some jewelry. I made my way toward them, pushing past the encounter with the pretty blonde and Juliet. It's really strange someone would want to take my picture unless they... Then it happened again. "Excuse me." I turned to see two different girls, college age, standing next to one another looking nervous. "Hey." "Hi. Sorry to bother you, but we were hoping we could take a picture with you." The second time in like 30 minutes. Bewildered, I said sure, and we did just that, taking pictures. The girls got a bit touchy, putting their hands around my waist and touching my forearm. It was so weird. When I reached the store, I noticed Samantha standing at the door, waving me over, appearing both pleased and annoyed at the same time. It was quite the expression. There were two women talking to me outside, but I made my way over to her. "What's up?" I asked, stepping inside the small shop. The girls were still staring at the jewelry with wide eyes, clearly taken by the delicate pieces on display. "I wanted to buy these for the girls," Samantha said, holding up a couple of necklaces they had been admiring. "They're on vacation, and I think they deserve something special." I glanced at the price tags, and my stomach tightened. They were beautiful pieces, no doubt, but I couldn't let Samantha spend that kind of money on my girls. They're beautiful, I said slowly, but I can't let you spend that much money on them. It wouldn't be right. Samantha looked at me, her expression soft but determined. It's just a gift, Ethan. It's not a big deal. I want to do something nice for them. Besides, they love these pieces, and I think it would make them really happy. I hesitated, my instincts telling me to politely refuse, but the way she looked at me, the sincerity in her eyes made it hard to say no. Still, I wasn't comfortable with it. I appreciate it, Samantha, really, but dash. Before I could finish, she stepped closer to me, her voice dropping to a whisper. I want to give you all a gift, Ethan. You and the girls. You've been so kind and welcoming, and it would mean a lot to me. And then, before I could process what was happening, she pulled my face to hers and kissed me. I'm a tall guy, so to come face to face with someone is often difficult. Not so here. Samantha is around 5'10" and wearing a slight heel. She had no problem reaching up, grabbing my face, and pulling me in. The kiss was soft, lingering, and completely unexpected. I barely had time to react before she pulled back, her eyes locked on mine, a playful smile tugging at her lips. Samantha. I started, my voice a mixture of surprise and confusion. My hero deserved a kiss, and now my girls deserve a necklace, she said with a grin. Now, let's get these girls their jewelry, okay? I blinked, still trying to catch up with what had just happened. The girls were staring at us with wide eyes, their earlier disappointment forgotten in the shock of the moment. I glanced at Samantha, who was looking at me with a mix of mischief and sincerity. She wasn't joking. All right, I said quietly, finally relenting. She beamed at me, and for a moment, I forgot where we were, forgot about the strange day we'd had, and just focused on the way her smile made me feel. And I had no idea how I should feel. We paid for the jewelry, and as we walked out of the shop, the girls chatted excitedly about their new necklaces.
Victoria. As I watched Ethan out of the shop, my thoughts wandered. There was something about him that I found both intriguing and frustrating. He was so strong, and yet he carried himself with a humility that seemed almost out of place in a world full of men who couldn't wait to show off their accomplishments. But there was more to it, something deeper I had difficulty placing my finger on. Juliet, who had been chatting away about the latest gossip in Silver Ridge, suddenly turned her attention back to me. Victoria, love, are you even listening to me? She observed, her tone laced with curiosity. That handsome man of yours must be keeping your thoughts occupied. I raised an eyebrow, giving her a sidelong glance. Ethan? Don't be ridiculous, Juliet. He's young enough to be my son. Juliet smirked, clearly unconvinced. Age is just a number, darling. Besides, I've seen the way you look at him. There's something there, even if you won't admit it. I opened my mouth to protest, but the words didn't come. I shook my head, trying to brush it off. He's a good man, Juliet. But really, it's not like that. He's just noticeable. Sturdy, charming in his own way. He's a mountain man, after all. Juliet chuckled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Noticeable? That's putting it lightly. He's more than just noticeable, Victoria. He has a presence, one that's hard to ignore. And I cannot help but think I've seen him somewhere before. I nodded, understanding her confusion. You know, I had a similar thought. Like I've seen him before, but I don't know where that would have been. The boy doesn't even have social media, and he is such a big guy with such a distinct look. He'd be hard to ignore in most settings. Juliet's eyes narrowed as she studied me. You like him. And don't tell me you don't. You're allowed, you know. It's not a crime to find someone attractive, even if they are younger. I laughed softly, shaking my head. You're reading too much into it, Juliet. Ethan saved me and Samantha's life. I am grateful, and situations like that create complicated feelings. but I'm not looking to complicate things for him or myself. Juliet tilted her head, clearly not buying my dismissal. Complicated or not, I think you should take him to bed and make him understand what the Lady of House Harrington can do. Juliet. I almost yelled. You are terrible. Juliet just laughed wickedly. Yes, yes. I am terrible. Anyways, I rolled my eyes playfully, trying to steer the conversation away from Ethan. Enough about him. What brings you to Silver Ridge? Juliet's smile faltered for a moment, and she hesitated before answering. John and I are here for the Mansons' ball, of course, which you'd be well aware of if you ever answered your emails. It's this Saturday, and I am here to support Pamela even if I want to punch her. The Mansons' ball. Totally forgot about that. It's a big one too. Geez, too many events to keep track of anyway. I see, I said simply. I had avoided the invitation on this one. Thankfully. Juliet's eyes narrowed. You should know. Robert is here. He's staying at his family's lodge and planning to attend the ball. I felt my heart sink slightly at the mention of Robert's name, though I tried to keep my expression neutral. Not surprising, I said, my voice calm. Is his whole group here? Juliet nodded, her expression sympathetic. Yes, including the Duchess. I just wanted to give you a heads up. He's been asking about you, and knowing Robert, he'll make it a point to find you. Are you prepared for that? I sighed softly, knowing this conversation was inevitable. I expected it, honestly. Robert never did know how to take a hint, but I'm not going to let him ruin my time here. We've been over for a long time, and I'm not looking back. Juliet gave me a supportive smile, but I could see the concern in her eyes. What about the Duchess? I shrugged. I didn't let her control things when we were kids, and I won't let her now. I knew Robert might come sniffing around after Henry died. I wasn't interested in him then. I am not now. I still don't understand the obsession. I can think of a million reasons. Just be careful, Victoria. He's persistent, and you know how he gets when he doesn't get what he wants. I nodded, appreciating her concern. I'll be fine, Juliet. If he tries anything, I'll handle it. I've dealt with Robert before, and I can do it again. She placed a hand on my arm, squeezing gently. You've always been strong, Victoria. Just remember that you don't have to face him alone. You've got people who care about you, people who will stand by your side. Thank you, Juliet, I said softly, grateful for her friendship. I'll keep that in mind. We exchanged hugs and kisses. Juliet, the mischief maker, gave my butt a swat. I yelped and turned to scold her. She gave me another big hug. What kind of 42-year-old has such an amazing ass? Then she was gone, leaving my face burning with embarrassment. I left the store and headed down Silver Ridge's main street. I saw Ethan immediately. 6 feet 3 inches or maybe even 6 feet 4 inches. Man, he is a big boy. As I approached, I noticed he was talking to a couple of attractive young ladies. They were all smiles and giggles, asking for pictures. I sat back and watched for a moment. Ethan was gracious but looked very uncomfortable. I wondered why. My mind wandered until I saw Ethan beckoned inside a delightful little shop by Samantha. I was about to follow when I noticed a display of handcrafted scarves in a nearby window. I lingered for a moment, letting my fingers brush against the soft fabric. I turned my attention back to the shop. There were things happening. I followed, intending to see what Samantha, Lily, and Maya were up to. The shop door was slightly ajar, and as I approached, I could hear bits of their conversation. I wasn't one to eavesdrop at least, not intentionally, but something about the tone of Samantha's voice made me pause. I want to give you all a gift, Ethan. You and the girls. You've been so kind and welcoming, and it would mean a lot to me. Remember, you're my hero. Hero. It was the correct word. Ethan had saved our lives, me, Samantha, and James. He really was a hero. I stepped closer, careful to stay out of sight. I watched as Samantha stood up to her fullest height, grabbed Ethan gently by the back of his head, leaned in, and kissed him. The kiss was gentle and lingered. It was enough to send a jolt of surprise through me. I froze, my heart skipping a beat as I watched the scene unfold. Ethan's expression was one of pure shock, his hand instinctively coming up to touch his lips as if he couldn't quite believe what had just happened. Samantha, on the other hand, tried to play it off, but I could see the nervous energy in the way she smiled, the way she glanced at the girls to gauge their reaction. The girls, bless their innocent hearts, were wide-eyed with surprise but quickly turned their attention back to the jewelry, albeit with smiles that would have made the Guy Fawkes jealous. The shopkeeper wrapped up the pieces as Samantha made the purchase, and I found myself smiling despite the unexpected turn of events. Ethan was a hero, indeed not just because of what he had done that night, but because of the way he carried himself, the way he cared for his girls, and the way he made Samantha feel safe enough to let her guard down, even if just for a moment. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions swirling inside me. There was a pang of jealousy, yes, but also a deep sense of admiration for Ethan. It was probably too early to say this, but Ethan was a good man, a truly good man. Seeing him through Samantha's eyes only reinforced that. As they finished up and began to leave the shop, I stepped back, giving them a moment before I joined them. What an interesting turn of events. Samantha. The moment my lips left Ethan's, a wave of panic surged through me. What the hell did I just do? My heart raced, and I felt the heat rising to my cheeks as I tried to maintain my composure. I kissed him. In public. Without thinking. I was lucky we were inside the shop and not out on the street. If anyone had seen that, the internet would have gone into a frenzy. I may not be as famous as I once was, but I'm still pretty damn well known. What was I thinking? I forced a smile as I handed the card to the shopkeeper, trying to act as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Ethan, still looking slightly dazed, seemed to be processing things in his own quiet way. The girls were buzzing with excitement, whether it was over the jewelry or the fact that I kissed their dad, I wasn't sure. As we left the shop and rejoined Victoria outside, I felt a rush of relief that the moment had passed without incident. But that relief was quickly replaced by gnawing anxiety. Why did I kiss him? It was a thank you kiss, a simple gesture of appreciation for everything he'd done for us. After all, Ethan had been nothing but kind and selfless since we met. Yes, that was it. I was thanking him. And apparently, I'm reverting to the logic of a third grader. I should be embarrassed by my own internal monologue. We walked down the street, the girls chattering happily, but I couldn't focus on their words. My mind was spinning, replaying the kiss over and over, analyzing every second of it. Had Ethan been surprised, or had there been a hint of something else in his eyes? Had I crossed a line, or was it just a harmless moment of spontaneity? The more I thought about it, the more uncertain I became. And then, as if to torture myself further, I pulled out my phone and shot a quick text to the harpies. Samantha, so, I did a thing. I kissed Ethan. Open the floodgates. Olivia, OMG, what? You kissed him? Details, now. Grace, you kissed Mountain Man? Was it good? Please tell me it was good. Natalie, Samantha Harrington, you better spill everything. I sighed, trying to figure out how to explain the situation. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I tried to downplay the whole thing. Samantha, it wasn't a big deal, really. We were in this shop, and the girls were picking out some jewelry. I wanted to buy it for them as a gift, but Ethan was being all noble and handsome and stubborn and kept refusing. So, I just kissed him. And he shut up.
Yeah.
So that happened. Their responses were immediate and, of course, merciless. Olivia, you kissed him. To shut him up? Sam, that is hilarious. Was it good, though? Like, did sparks fly? Were there fireworks? Grace, wait, was it a peck, or was there actual lip action? This is important information. Natalie, I'm with Olivia. You don't just kiss a guy to shut him up unless you really want to kiss him. I groaned, knowing that this was going to be a thing. They were like sharks circling blood in the water. Samantha, it was a quick kiss, I guess. But
Yeah.
maybe I wanted to. I don't know. It just happened. Olivia, oh snap, that's my girl. Hell,
Yeah.
you wanted to. And there's no shame in that. I mean, have you seen the man? Rugged, tall, built like a mountain. Grace, and don't forget, he's a good dad too. That's like catnip for women. No wonder you kissed him. Natalie, you're into him. Just admit it. You've got this hot, single dad all to yourself in the mountains, and you're telling us you kissed him just because? Please. I felt heat rising to my cheeks again. Was I into Ethan? No, I couldn't be. I didn't even know the guy. Not really. Samantha, it's not like that, okay? It was just a thank you kiss and maybe a bit of a distraction. What's the point of having all this money if I can't buy stuff for people I like? The jewelry was a few $100s. He was trying to be all sensible. It was annoying. I smiled and continued. Samantha, I must admit the look on his face was priceless. Anyway, I am not into him. I'm not trying to start something here. Besides, he probably thinks I'm crazy now. Olivia, if he does, it's in a good way. Trust me. Grace, exactly. And even if it was just a thank you kiss, there's nothing wrong with exploring that chemistry a little more. Who knows where it could lead? Natalie, and if he does think you're crazy, he's still hanging around, isn't he? That means something. I frowned at my phone, their words sinking in. Samantha, you guys are impossible. I just kissed him, that's all. Let's not turn this into a big thing, okay? Olivia, oh, it's already a big thing, honey. But we'll let you have your denial. For now. Grace, but seriously, Sam, keep us posted. We're living vicariously through you at this point. Natalie, I think you need to kiss him again. You know, as an experiment, for science. Yes, for science. I laughed. Seriously, my friends are idiots. But their relentless teasing eased some of the tension. Then I clapped my hand over my mouth. I eyed Ethan, who was walking with a contemplative look on his face. What was he thinking? He is so hard to read with facial hair. I bet he is handsome without it. I shook my head. Stop it, Samantha. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and took a deep breath. It was just a kiss. Nothing more. I wasn't getting into another relationship. I had sworn off men. We walked with the crowds as the girls talked excitedly about their jewelry. They kept giving me random hugs, which made me happy. We walked until Victoria suddenly stopped in front of a sleek, modern storefront. The sign above the door read, TechX Wireless, with the familiar logos of various phone brands displayed in the windows. I gave her a knowing smile. Victoria turned to me, and I could already tell what she was thinking. She wanted to buy new phones. Ethan, I noticed that you don't have a phone. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. It's no problem. I must have dropped it when I was in the limo. I have insurance, I'm pretty sure. No harm. I don't really use it when I'm up here anyway. So let me make sure I am understanding you, Victoria said, her voice gentle. You lost your phone while you were trying to save the lives of me, Samantha, and my driver. Ethan shrugged. Well, yes. I guess. Victoria took him by the arm. I will be buying you a new phone. But. Victoria put a finger to his mouth, getting close and entering his personal space. Ethan's hands moved to Victoria's hips without even realizing it. She did not seem to mind. Ethan, I could buy you everything in the world and it wouldn't be enough to thank you for what you did. It appears that acts of generosity make you uncomfortable as you are used to doing things on your own, but I assure you, taking kindness from others is as much for them as it is for you. So please, allow this sweet old lady to do this for you. Consider it an order from the Countess of Espornu. Ethan's eyes softened, and he whispered, "Yes, my lady." Victoria grinned. "And I will also buy phones for the girls too." Victoria walked into the store. "Wait," Ethan said. "What?" Ethan and the girls, who were wide-eyed by Victoria's behavior, followed. I was shocked. Lady Harrington giving the full court press. Damn, that was both sweet and seductive. How do I learn that skill? I followed Ethan, Victoria, and the girls into the store. I saw Victoria's expression shift slightly. There was a bit of color on her cheeks. But then there was a determined gleam in her eye, one that I knew all too well. She had something in mind. She turned to Ethan. "Okay, my knight, which phone should we get you?" "I think the new iPhone is perfect. Your hands are big, so the large screen is necessary. We should also get you a high storage capacity, so you can take lots of pictures and videos. I mean, your girls are so adorable. You're going to want a lot of those." Yes. This Max model should do." She turned to a young and adorable blonde sales associate who was standing by. To the surprise of everyone but me, the young lady curtsied. "Lady Harrington," she said. "It's good to see you again." "Yes, it is, Emma. How are your parents?" "They are wonderful, my lady. Thank you for asking." "And your brother? How is he doing at university?" "He is doing well. Thank you for helping him with that internship." "Oh, you are welcome, my dear. Let me ask you. Did Louis get you my order?" "Of course," Emma said. "We have the phones for you and Miss Samantha in the back." "Perfect. I would also like you to bring one of these iPhones for Ethan here. The usual plans and protection, please." Ethan shook his head. "Victoria, that is like an $1,800 phone. I cannot dash." Victoria gave Ethan a stern look. He froze. I could tell he was battling with himself in his head. It's not like Victoria was intimidating or anything. He just didn't want to make a scene and embarrass anyone. I could tell. I can also say from personal experience how stubborn my aunt can be. "Ethan dear," Victoria said in a low whisper. He looked at her. "The jewelry Samantha bought for your girls was several $100s. We both have more money than we could ever spend. I do not mean to sound flippant about the price. To most people, $1,800 is substantial, and I recognize this fact. But for me, it's a drop in the bucket. So please, just allow me to do this for you. Or do I need to kiss you to distract you from the price?" Ethan's face blazed red and then scowled. I could feel my own face heating up. He muttered to himself and gave her a helpless look. "You women are going to be the death of me." Victoria did a little fist pump, but then she kept going. "I know that I have steamrolled you already, Ethan, and since you're a good man who respects women and doesn't want to cause a scene, you're going to let me have my way. So please, I need you to indulge me one more time." Ethan turned back to Victoria. He appeared resigned. She continued, "Besides, in this day and age the girls really need phones." Ethan frowned slightly, clearly uncomfortable with the idea. "Victoria, I appreciate the thought, but it's really not necessary. Samantha already bought them those beautiful pieces of jewelry. The girls have never really needed phones before, and I don't want them getting too attached to technology." I couldn't help but step in. He was trying to argue from a practical standpoint, which I could respect, but he was missing the point. "Ethan," I said, moving closer to join the conversation, "technology can be policed. Of course, we don't want them to spend all day scrolling. But the latest phones are amazing safety, tracking, and communication devices. And your girls are getting up there. Having phones is just practical, the good outweighs the bad by far." He looked at me, his frown deepening, but I could tell he was considering it. I continued, "Think about it this way, this isn't about spoiling them or giving them unnecessary luxuries. Though you should know that I would gladly do that. It's about keeping them safe. You can set boundaries around when and how they use the phones, but at least they'll have them if they need them. Victoria nodded in agreement, placing a reassuring hand on Ethan's arm. Ethan, I understand your concerns, but think of it as a tool, not a luxury. It's about keeping them safe and connected, and you deserve that peace of mind. Ethan's gaze shifted to the girls, who were watching the exchange with hopeful eyes, practically holding their breath. He let out a sigh, clearly outnumbered, and I could see the moment he relented. All right, he finally said, his voice resigned but not unkind, but just for safety. No excessive screen time. The girls' faces lit up, and then they looked at Victoria and me like we were aliens. They almost tackled Victoria. Thank you, they both said. Quite a few people were watching and laughing at the girls' infectious joy. Victoria laughed, and even Ethan was joining in. The girls, after much giggling, broke away from Victoria, righted themselves, and then in unison, gave a proper English curtsy and said, "We are very grateful to you, Lady Harrington." The look on my aunt's face was priceless. Hey, wait a moment. Where the heck was my curtsy? Victoria beamed with pride at the girls' display of gratitude. Her gesture had been well received, and she was pleased to see them happy. However, her attention quickly shifted back to the task at hand as Emma returned with the phone for Ethan, and we began our search for the girls' phones. We walked through the aisles, and it was awesome to watch the girls' eyes light up at the sight of the shiny new devices. They were trying to hide their excitement, probably because they didn't want to seem too eager. It was clear that Ethan had been anti-phone for a long time. He seemed to know that eventually, he was going to have to get it for them, and they already had tablets, so it's not like they were totally disconnected, but Victoria and I had convinced him of the need. A man that actually listened. What a strange occurrence. Ethan and I talked while Victoria and the girls looked for phones. He didn't come right out and say it, but I was under the distinct impression it wasn't the phones he disliked, it was social media. He really didn't like social media. It made me wonder a bit. Oh, and while we were talking, he still couldn't look me in the eye. The few times he did, his cheeks heated up a bit. It was super cute. Victoria and I quickly got to work, chatting with Emma and explaining what they were looking for. Within minutes, the girls had iPhones. I wanted to pay for this one, and my aunt objected. I told her that I insisted, and that I would fight her. She smiled at me and tried not to laugh. Fine, she said. But lunch is on me. Deal, I responded. But I'm getting dinner. Ladies, Ethan started, you don't have to dash. Ethan darling, Victoria said. What did I tell you about money? If you want me to kiss you that badly, simply say so, you don't have to protest so vehemently. Ethan gave us both an exasperated look. Victoria blew him a kiss. Victoria held up one of the phones and started showing the girls some of the features. The girls started taking pictures of Ethan, who rolled his eyes. Then, in a moment I wasn't thinking, I neared Ethan and put my arms around his waist. The girls took several pictures. Victoria moved in next to Ethan, and several more pictures were taken. Ethan didn't seem to know how to react. The girls, Victoria, and I looked at the pictures. Oh my gosh, those are so cute. I said. Girls, send me those. Me too, said Victoria. The girls laughed. Then Maya said, I think I need to set them up first. We did just that. After paying for the phones and spending some time with Adam, the store tech guy, I handed the girls their new phones and showed them how to navigate the basic functions. These are yours now, I said with a smile. You can use them to call or text your dad or us if you ever need anything. I'm going to put mine and Aunt Victoria's numbers in your phone. Maya and Lily looked up at me, their eyes close to tears, but their faces glowing with happiness. Thanks, Samantha. Thanks, Aunt Victoria. Damn, is this what having children is like? I might actually kidnap these two. Lily grinned, clutching her phone tightly. And thank you, Dad. We love you. It's time for kisses. I watched as the girls ran to their dad, and he swept them up like they were nothing. Even Maya, who was tall for a 13-year, was tiny compared to him. It just reminded me how damn strong he was. Victoria smiled warmly at them and whispered, "I think I might just kidnap them. Lock them up in my mansion." I giggled. I was just thinking the same thing.
Ethan, Samantha, and Victoria were unlike any women I'd ever met. I've encountered beautiful women before. Sarah, my ex-wife, was stunning in that conventional trophy wife sort of way. But Samantha and Victoria were a different breed. Sure, they were beautiful, breathtaking, even, but it was more than that. They were more than that. Sarah had always been concerned with appearances, always chasing after the next big thing, the next upgrade, the next validation. She was the kind of woman who thrived on being admired, on being the center of attention. But Samantha and Victoria, they didn't seem to need the attention or validation. They had an air of self-assuredness that came from within, a kind of quiet strength that didn't demand attention but naturally drew it. Samantha, with her easy smile and warm demeanor, had a way of making everyone around her feel comfortable. She didn't flaunt her beauty or her status. Instead, she seemed more interested in getting to know people and making genuine connections. There was a kindness in her that was hard to miss, a sincerity that made it easy to forget that she was a world-famous model. She was the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it, not because of how she looked, but because of the energy she brought with her. And then there was Victoria. Lady Harrington. She was every bit the aristocrat with her refined manners and polished elegance, but there was a warmth to her as well, a depth that I hadn't expected. She was quick to smile, quick to laugh, and there was a hint of mischief in her eyes that made her all the more intriguing. Despite her title and her obvious wealth, she didn't come across as distant or unapproachable. In fact, she was incredibly down-to-earth, and the way she interacted with the girls so natural, so caring, only added to her allure. I was hard not to compare them to Sarah. I hated to do it, but it was not even a comparison. Sarah had been beautiful, yes, but her beauty had always felt like a shield, a way to keep the world at arm's length. She had been more concerned with how others saw her than how she actually felt. It had been exhausting, trying to keep up with her expectations, trying to be the man she wanted me to be, even when it meant losing myself in the process. But with Samantha and Victoria, it was different. They didn't expect anything from me, didn't demand that I be someone I wasn't. It was quite refreshing. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts as we walked through Silver Ridge. It was turning out to be a truly beautiful day. The town was bustling with activity. Samantha and Victoria walked ahead with the girls, their laughter and conversation filling the air around us. They took pictures and did silly dances. At one point, Maya literally stood up and started singing. I trailed behind, lost in my thoughts, trying to make sense of the feelings that had been swirling inside me. I watched as Samantha and the girls took their pictures and then looked at them. They repeated the action several times, pointing, giggling, and making suggestions. The girls posed, and then Samantha started clicking on her phone furiously. She suddenly stopped. Samantha said something to the girls, and they shook their heads. Then they all looked at me. Samantha said something else to the girls, got up, and walked to me. Victoria just looked amused. "Ethan," Samantha said, "I know that you aren't big on social media, but I was wondering if it was okay to post their pictures on Instagram with me. If you don't want them there, it's totally okay." I frowned. I don't love Instagram, Facebook, or any of those other platforms. But that wasn't what caught my attention. Samantha had asked me and looked genuinely concerned about my reaction. This woman cares about what I think, at least in regards to this. I was just about to post something with the girls, and I realized that it would be totally inappropriate to do so without your permission. I smiled. "It's fine, Samantha. I'm sure the picture is gorgeous." Samantha turned to the girls. He said yes. Both my girls blew me kisses. "We love you, Daddy." Samantha and the girls went back to pictures. Victoria came to my side. "Have you ever actually said no to them?" I shook my head. "Yes and no. It's pretty rare that I say no to them, but it's also pretty rare that they put me in a disagreeable position. They are so worried about how their mother hurt me that it sometimes feels like they are parenting me. I froze. I mentioned my ex-wife. Damn it.
Victoria. As Ethan mentioned his ex-wife, I noticed the subtle change in his demeanor. His relaxed posture stiffened, his eyes darkened slightly, and a shadow of something confusion, hurt, or perhaps both passed across his face. There was also something else. Rage. It was fleeting, but unmistakable. The mention of her name clearly still had an impact on him, and not a pleasant one. I felt a surge of anger flare up inside me, completely unexpected and entirely uncharacteristic. What had this woman done to him? Ethan was. Well, he was a gem of a man. Honest, kind, strong, and yet there was a vulnerability in him, a quiet, unspoken pain that lingered just beneath the surface. I didn't know much about his ex, only what little I'd pieced together from brief mentions and the odd comment. But it was enough to make me feel protective of Ethan, a man who clearly didn't deserve whatever torment she had put him through. I wondered what their relationship had been like, what had caused it to unravel so completely. But more than that, I wondered how anyone could walk away from a man like him. We continued our walk through Silver Ridge. I watched Ethan interact with Samantha and the girls, his easy smile returning as they took pictures and laughed together. Despite the brief glimpse of pain I'd seen earlier, Ethan was trying to stay in the moment, to enjoy this time with his daughters and our little group. He was strong, but it was clear that the effort it took for him to keep those old wounds at bay was monumental. It took everything in my power to not run and throw my arms around him. I kept my tone light as I leaned in slightly, keeping pace with Ethan as we walked. "You know, Ethan," I said softly, "it's clear that you're a wonderful father. The way those girls look at you, the way they care for you. It's something truly special." He glanced over at me, his expression softening again. "Thanks, Victoria. I try my best, but I think they're the ones who take care of me more often than not." I smiled. "It's not a bad thing to be cared for, Ethan. Sometimes, it's what we need most, even if we don't realize it." He nodded, but he was uncomfortable with the conversation. The mention of his ex-wife had unsettled him, and I didn't want to push too hard. There was a part of me that desperately wanted to understand, to know more about what had happened between them, and to find some way to help him heal. "Time, Victoria. Give it time."
Ethan. People started to get hungry. Victoria suggested we head to Pine and Vine for lunch, a restaurant she described as the best deal in town. Apparently, the owner of the establishment was a long-term friend of Victoria's from southern Italy. She had been here for 25 years. The exterior of Pine and Vine was inviting, with ivy-covered brick walls and large windows that let in the warm afternoon light. As soon as we stepped inside, the smell of rich Italian cooking hit me: garlic, tomatoes, fresh herbs. It was like walking into someone's kitchen, not a restaurant, and it helped me relax a little. A kind voice greeted us as we entered. The older woman had a round, kind face with deep smile lines and a twinkle in her eye. She wore a brightly patterned apron over a plain black dress, and her silver hair was swept up in a messy bun. Her eyes lit up when she saw Samantha. "Ah, Samantha! My little Bella," she exclaimed, pulling Samantha into a tight hug. "It's been too long. Come, sit down. I have a special table just for you." Samantha laughed, returning the hug with equal warmth. "Nana Maria, it's so good to see you. How's business?" Busy, Nana Maria replied with a wave of her hand, her thick Italian accent making everything she said sound more comforting. "But it's always better when you and your aunt come to visit, Samantha. And who is this handsome man you've brought with you? And what about these beautiful girls?" Before Samantha could respond, Nana Maria was already reaching out to pinch Lily and Maya's cheeks gently, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Ah, such beautiful young ladies. Look at you. Bellasime. You must be the princesses of the family, yes?" Lily and Maya blushed under the attention, clearly charmed by Nana Maria's warmth. They both nodded shyly, and Nana Maria beamed at them as if they were her own granddaughters. I felt a warmth spread through my chest at Nana Maria's words. I managed a modest smile, nodding slightly. I'm the lucky one to have them. Nana Maria patted my arm affectionately, her touch conveying a comforting familiarity. Ah, such a good father. You take care of them, yes? But today, you let Nana Maria take care of you. Sit, make yourselves at home. Just then, a young man, Nana Maria's grandson, Luca, appeared beside us, his eyes immediately landing on Samantha. Hey, Sam, he said with a grin that was a little too wide for my liking. You're looking as stunning as ever. Luca, in his early 30s, had a classic Mediterranean look that made him stand out effortlessly. His dark, wavy hair framed a face with strong, well-defined features, a sharp jawline, straight nose, and a smile that was as charming as it was self-assured. His eyes, a warm shade of hazel, held a spark of mischief, and he had a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room when he looked at you. Standing at about 5 feet 8 inches with a lean, athletic build, Luca moved with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly how to make an impression. Dressed casually in a fitted sweater and jeans that hinted at his well-built frame, he exuded a relaxed charm, but there was an edge to his smile, a hint of flirtation that suggested he wasn't afraid to push boundaries. Samantha rolled her eyes playfully but didn't seem bothered by his attention. Hi, Luca. Still trying your lines, huh? Only for you, Luca replied with a wink, completely ignoring me as he focused on her. One always pays attention to the sun, especially after a long night, and that is what your absence is like, Bella, the long night. A flicker of irritation rose in me, but I kept it to myself. It wasn't any of my business how Samantha responded. Still, the slight tightening in my chest at Luca's overt flirtation probably meant something. Nana Maria, sensing the tension, quickly intervened. Luca, enough with your poetry, she scolded, though there was a hint of affection in her voice. Leave the poor girl alone. She's here to eat, not to be serenaded. Luca chuckled and threw his hands up in mock surrender. All right, Nana. But you can't blame a guy for trying. Nana Maria shook her head, her expression softening as she looked at Samantha. You'll have to forgive my grandson. He's got his head in the clouds, always thinking he's some kind of romantic hero. But don't worry, Samantha, I'll make sure he stays out of your hair. Samantha laughed, clearly amused by the exchange. It's fine, Nana. I'm used to it by now. As we were led to a cozy corner table, Nana Maria continued to fuss over us, making sure Lily and Maya had everything they needed. She brought over freshly baked bread with a small dish of olive oil and balsamic vinegar, ensuring that the girls were comfortable and happy. I watched as Samantha and Victoria interacted with Nana Maria, who was sweet, like the grandma you always wanted. There was something incredibly comforting about her presence, like a warm blanket on a cold day. Samantha, now seated beside me, leaned in slightly and whispered, Nana Maria is like the grandma everyone wishes they had. She's been running this place for as long as I can remember, and she treats everyone like family. Handsome boy, Nana Maria said, interrupting Samantha, I am told you are quite the cook lasagna, I laughed. Yes, Nana. I make the best lasagna. I watched Nana scowl and then laugh. Silly boy. I will show you the best lasagna. Then you will have to give your Nana a big kiss, yes? It's a bet, Nana. As we waited for our meals, Samantha slid her chair a little closer to mine. Here, she said softly, holding out her hand for my phone, let me help you set up some apps on your new phone. You're going to need a few essentials. I nodded, a bit flustered by how close she was, her perfume filling my senses. Thanks, I appreciate it, I said, trying to focus on the phone and not on how her knee was brushing against mine under the table or how her shoulder leaned against me. She showed me how to navigate the different features, which she did with both patience and kindness. It was pretty impressive, as I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to this stuff. Every so often, she'd glance up at me with a small smile, and I'd feel that strange pull again, the one that made me want to know more about her. By the time our food arrived, the girls were laughing at something Victoria had said, and even Luca had stopped by our table again, making a show of trying to impress Samantha with some story about his latest adventure. She brushed him off with ease. When Nana Maria placed the lasagna in front of me, she gave me a look that dared me to say it wasn't the best I'd ever had. I took a bite, letting the flavors melt in my mouth. It was damn good, rich, cheesy, with just the right amount of garlic and herbs. But I think I knew the clear winner. "It's pretty good," I said with a grin, "but I think mine's better." Nana Maria laughed, swatting me lightly on the shoulder. "Next time, you'll cook for me, and we'll see whose lasagna is the best." "Deal," I replied, feeling more at ease than I had in days. I stood to my full height and then kneeled down to Nana and gave her a big kiss on the cheek. "Yours was still amazing, Nana." She blushed a deep crimson. "Cheeky boy. Stop embarrassing your Nana, or I will have to take you over my knee." I sat back down. "Yes, ma'am." After we finished the main course, which left me more than satisfied, Nana Maria returned with a tray of desserts that looked like they belonged in an art gallery rather than on a dinner table. Tiramisu, cannoli, and a beautifully plated panna cotta drizzled with caramel sauce sat in front of us, each more tempting than the last. "Try the panna cotta," Nana Maria insisted, setting it directly in front of me. "It's my specialty, made fresh this morning. You won't find anything like it anywhere else in Silver Ridge." I took a bite, the silky smooth texture of the panna cotta melting on my tongue, balanced perfectly with the sweet and slightly bitter caramel. It was incredible. I let out a low hum of appreciation. "This is amazing," I said, meaning every word. Nana Maria beamed at the compliment, her pride evident. "I'm glad you like it, Caro. You'll have to come back and try the rest of my desserts another time." "I would love that, Nana." "Thank you again." And I really meant it. Nana Maria beamed, clearly pleased. "You're welcome anytime, cheeky boy. And don't forget to bring these lovely ladies with you." Just as we were finishing up, Luca made his way back over to our table. This time, his approach was a little less cocky, which I was almost positive was about 90% show. "So, Samantha," Luca began, leaning casually against the back of her chair. "There's this new place in town, the Rusty Spur. It's got a real laid-back vibe, country music, a dance floor, and some of the best drinks in Silver Ridge. You should come by tonight. I'll make sure you have a good time." Samantha looked up, clearly interested but not overly eager. "That sounds like fun," she said, glancing over at me. "Ethan, what do you think? A little country music, some dancing? Could be a good way to unwind." She was trying to make it sound casual, but her tone suggested she really wanted me to come along. The idea of a country bar was appealing. I wasn't much for dancing, but it might be nice to get a drink. Still, when was the last time I went out with someone as attractive as Samantha? Strike that. I've never gone out with someone as attractive as Samantha. I paused, feeling a sudden wave of uncertainty wash over me, but Samantha must have sensed my hesitation. She leaned in close, her warm breath tickling my ear as she whispered, "Come on, Ethan. It should be fun. Besides, you owe me for saving you from Luca's serenading earlier." Her playful tone and the twinkle in her eyes were enough to melt any doubts I had. I smiled at her, unable to resist her infectious enthusiasm, but I don't know if it was appropriate. "I would love to, Samantha, but what about Dash?" "I will watch the girls," said Victoria. "Apparently she can read me like a book. Not that Maya needs watching after, but if you're worried about them. We will have a junk food and movie night." The girls just grinned. "All right," I said finally out of excuses, "I'm in. But no promises on the dancing part." Samantha beamed, clearly pleased with my answer. "No pressure on the dancing. We can just enjoy the music and have a good time." Luca's expression faltered just for a moment before he quickly recovered. "Great. I'll see you both there tonight. I'll make sure you're on the guest list." He gave Samantha one last look before heading back toward the kitchen, clearly not thrilled that his attempt to charm her hadn't gone as planned. As he walked away, Samantha leaned in closer to me, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We will explore it together. Promise we'll have fun." I shrugged. "I'm sure we will." Victoria, who had been watching the exchange with a knowing smile, chimed in. "It sounds like a perfect way to end the day." The idea of spending the evening in a country bar, surrounded by good music and good company, was something I could get behind. The Rusty Spurs sounded like the kind of place where I could relax and enjoy myself without worrying about being out of place. Nana brought the check. We paid, and then she gave the girls a broad smile. "Maya, Lily, what beautiful names for such beautiful girls." She leaned down slightly to be at their level, her voice warm and affectionate. "Did you enjoy the food, my dears?" Maya and Lily nodded eagerly. "Yes, it was delicious," Maya said, her eyes wide with excitement. Lily chimed in, "We loved it. Especially the bolognese." Nana straightened up, looking pleased. "I'm so glad to hear that. You two must come back and see me anytime, all right? I'll make sure to have something special just for you." The girls grinned, clearly charmed by Nana. Meanwhile, she turned her attention back to me, her eyes twinkling with warmth and mischief. Before I could react, she pulled me into a tight embrace, surprising me with her strength. "Thank you, cheeky boy, for taking care of Samantha and Victoria. You must come back here with your famous lasagna. I want to try it for myself." I chuckled awkwardly, not used to such enthusiastic affection from strangers. "I'll see what I can do, Nana. I promise." Nana patted my cheek and then turned to Victoria, giving her a similar warm hug. "Victoria, it's always a pleasure to see you here. You've brought a wonderful group this time. It warms my heart to see such a happy family." Victoria returned the embrace. "Thank you, Nana. It's always a joy to visit your restaurant. And you know Samantha and I wouldn't miss a chance to introduce these girls to your wonderful food." We left the restaurant as Nana gave each of us a warm farewell. There were also a couple of the waitresses near the kitchen door, peeking out and waving at me. They were young, probably college students, and I wasn't sure why they were so interested. I offered them a polite nod, not really understanding the attention. Victoria, who had been observing the whole interaction with a knowing smile, leaned in slightly as we walked out onto the street. "It seems you've made quite an impression, Ethan. Not just with Nana but with her staff as well." I shrugged, trying to play it off. "I think they're just being friendly." Samantha smirked, clearly enjoying my discomfort. "Friendly, sure. I'm sure they just want to be friends." I wasn't sure how to respond to that, so I stayed silent, letting the moment pass. We walked back the way we came, retracing our steps down the street. Victoria began talking about some of the other dining options in Silver Ridge. "You know, Ethan, this was a great meal, but there are some really high-end places in town that we should try. We could get a reservation for tomorrow night if you're up for it." I hesitated, not sure if I really wanted to go to one of those fancy places. "I don't know, Victoria. I'm more comfortable in places like Pine and Vine." Samantha nudged me playfully. "Come on, Ethan. It's just one night. Besides, it's an experience. You might enjoy it more than you think." Victoria nodded in agreement. "Exactly. And you deserve a nice night out after everything. We'll take care of everything. You just show up." I sighed, realizing I wasn't going to win this one. "All right, but don't expect me to wear anything too fancy. And I get to make dinner tonight." Samantha laughed. "Deal. We'll keep it casual."
Samantha. We made our way back to the car after a leisurely stroll through the streets of Silver Ridge. Maya and Lily were still buzzing with excitement from their visit to Pine and Vine, chattering about everything from the food to Nana Maria's warm welcome. It brought me joy to see how much they seemed to enjoy themselves. As we piled into the Escalade, I spied on Ethan. He looked content, a small smile playing on his lips as he listened to Maya and Lily's animated conversation. He should smile all the time. The drive back to the house was filled with light-hearted banter. Victoria and I tossed around ideas for the evening, maybe indulge in a fancy dinner first and then head out. That probably wouldn't work. It would be hard for them to get to one of the elite dining experiences and get to the Rusty Spur. Besides, we would need to get Ethan and the girls some upscale clothes. I will wait until tomorrow to tell Ethan that. As soon as we got back to the house, Ethan mentioned he needed to head out again. I'm going to check on James and pick up some stuff for dinner, he said, his tone casual, but there was a hint of something deeper in his eyes, maybe a need for some space or just the usual desire to keep everything running smoothly. Okay, I replied, trying not to read too much into it. We'll be here when you get back. He nodded and headed out, leaving me standing in the living room with Victoria and the girls. As soon as the door closed behind him, I felt a flutter of nerves start to build in my stomach. Tonight. I was going to spend the evening with Ethan in a setting that felt much more intimate than anything we'd done so far. And then it hit me, I had no idea what I was going to wear. Okay, I need to figure this out, I muttered to myself as I headed to my room. My friends had always been my go-to when it came to wardrobe crises, so I quickly pulled out my phone and started typing a message. Samantha, guys, I need help. I'm going dancing tonight with Ethan at the new cowboy bar here in town. Fashion emergency. The response was almost immediate. Olivia.
Oh.
Dancing with Ethan? Jealous. Grace, spill the tea, girl. How did this come about? Natalie, and more importantly, what are your intentions with this mountain man? You've seen Footloose. You know that dance leads to sex, right? I quickly typed out the details, telling them about Luca's invitation and how I'd roped Ethan into coming along. But as I tried to describe my intentions, I found myself hesitating. What were my intentions? I pushed those thoughts aside for now and focused on the task at hand, finding the perfect outfit. I needed something that said country but also is sexy. Something that would make me feel confident, but still fit in at a place like the Rusty Spur. I rifled through my closet, pulling out a few options and laying them on the bed. There was a cute sundress with a floral pattern that could work, but it felt too sweet. Then there was the black off-the-shoulder top and denim skirt combo, definitely more on the flirty side, but maybe a little too confining. It was really tight around my legs, and I wanted to be able to move. Finally, my eyes landed on a pair of dark skinny jeans and a fitted plaid shirt. I paired it with a wide leather belt, and for the finishing touch, my favorite pair of brown cowboy boots. Perfect, I whispered to myself, holding the outfit up to the mirror. It was the right mix of country and sexy, with just enough edge to keep it interesting. I quickly put it on and admired the way the jeans hugged my butt and the shirt accentuated my waist. The boots added just the right amount of height, and I couldn't help but feel a little thrill of anticipation. I snapped a quick selfie in the mirror and sent it to the group chat. Samantha, what do you think? The responses came in a flurry. Olivia, damn, girl. You look crazy hot. Grace, it's ridiculous how hot you look. I am.
So?
Jealous. Dancing? Country? A mysterious mountain man? I want to go.
Wink.
Natalie, yeehaw, cowgirl. You are definitely going to turn some heads tonight. I giggled at their reactions, feeling my nerves settle just a little bit. This was going to be fun. It didn't have to be anything more than that. I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. Maybe I should go with something a bit more revealing. Maya and Lily burst into the room just as I was adjusting the fit of my outfit. Their eyes widened with excitement when they saw me, and I could practically feel their energy bubbling over. Wow, you look amazing. Lily exclaimed, her voice filled with awe.
Yeah.
You look like you're ready to rock that dance floor. Maya added, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I smiled, feeling a warm rush of affection for the girls. Thanks, girls. I'm glad you like it. But you know what? I think it needs a little something extra. Maya tilted her head, considering the outfit. Maybe a hat? Like one of those cool, wide-brimmed ones that cowgirls wear. Lily nodded eagerly. Yes. That would totally complete the look. I chuckled at their enthusiasm. You know, I think you're right. A hat would be perfect. The girls immediately started searching through the closet, their excitement contagious. Within moments, they found a stylish, dark brown hat that complemented the outfit perfectly. I tried it on, and the girls' faces lit up. Now you look like a real cowgirl, Maya declared, clapping her hands together. Lily grinned, her eyes shining. You're going to knock everyone's socks off tonight. We spent the next few minutes fussing over the outfit, adjusting the hat, and deciding on the right accessories. The girls were having a blast, offering suggestions and helping me with every little detail. It was fun, almost like a mini fashion show, and I loved how involved they were. As we were finishing up, Maya suddenly asked, "Can we help with your makeup? We've been practicing, and we want to make sure you look perfect." I hesitated for a moment, then smiled. All right, but just a little bit. I don't want to overdo it. The girls giggled with excitement and immediately got to work. They were surprisingly careful and precise, and I was impressed by how much they'd learned. They applied a bit of eyeshadow, some blush, and a touch of lip gloss, just enough to enhance the look without making it too heavy. When they were done, they stepped back to admire their work, their faces beaming with pride. "You look gorgeous, Samantha," Lily said, her voice filled with genuine admiration. Maya nodded in agreement. "You're going to be the star of the night." I looked at myself in the mirror, and I had to admit, they'd done a fantastic job. I felt confident, sexy, and ready for whatever the night had in store. As the girls continued to admire their handiwork, Lily suddenly blurted out, "So, are you going to kiss Dad again?" I froze, caught off guard by the question. "What?" I stammered, trying to play it cool, but my cheeks were already heating up. Maya giggled, nudging her sister.
Yeah.
"You kissed him in the jewelry shop." Daddy was speechless. It was so cute. I bit my lip, unsure of how to respond. "Well, that was just a little thank you kiss," I explained, hoping to downplay the moment. "It wasn't a big deal." Lily looked unconvinced. "But you like him, right? Maybe you should kiss him again tonight." Maya nodded eagerly. "Yes. It could be so romantic." My face flustered, and I could feel it heating up. "You two are just too much," I said, shaking my head. "But I don't think kissing your dad is on the agenda for tonight. We're just going to have some fun and dance." The girls exchanged knowing looks, clearly not buying my casual dismissal. "Well, if you do kiss him," Maya said with a sly grin, "just make sure it's a really good one. With lots of tongue." "Maya!" I exclaimed. Lily giggled. "Eh? Yuck. Tongue. That is so gross." I laughed along with them, even though my heart was racing at the thought. "All right, you two troublemakers. Let's focus on making sure I look good for this dance. No more talk about kissing, okay?" The girls giggled again but nodded in agreement. I took one last look in the mirror. The outfit, the hat, the makeup, it all came together perfectly. I felt a flutter of nervous excitement in my stomach, but it was mixed with anticipation. Tonight was going to be interesting, that was for sure. After the laughter died down and the girls seemed satisfied with the makeup and outfit, I had an idea. "Hey, how about we take some pictures before we go? You two did such a great job helping me get ready, we should document it." Lily and Maya's eyes lit up at the suggestion, and they immediately started jumping up and down with excitement. "Yes. Let's take pictures," Maya exclaimed, grabbing my phone off the dresser. Lily nodded eagerly, already positioning herself next to me. "We need to get some good ones. Can we take a selfie first?" I laughed at their enthusiasm. "Of course. Come here, let's make sure we get the hat in the shot." We huddled together, the three of us, and I held the phone up, trying to get the best angle. The first few pictures were classic selfies, smiling, laughing, even a few silly faces thrown in for good measure. But soon, the girls got more creative. "Let's do one where we're pretending to be supermodels," Lily suggested, striking a dramatic pose.
Yeah.
"Like we're on the cover of a magazine," Maya added, copying her sister's pose with a serious expression. I played along, trying my best to channel my old modeling days, though I couldn't help but laugh at the exaggerated expressions on the girls' faces. We took a few more shots, each one more ridiculous and fun than the last. "These are going to turn out so good," Lily said, scrolling through the photos with a big smile on her face. Then she frowned. It was so abrupt I didn't know what to say. "Maya, should we send some to Mom?" I paused, taken aback by the suggestion. I hadn't expected them to want to share these pictures with their mom. The desire to share was telling. Lily, at least, still wanted to connect with their mom, despite everything that had happened. Maya was troubled. It was easy to tell. "All right," I agreed, giving them a supportive smile. "Pick a couple of your favorites, and we'll send them to her." Lily and Maya quickly selected a few of the photos, choosing ones where we all looked particularly happy. They even added a little message, something simple and sweet, getting ready for a fun night. I watched as they sent the pictures off, feeling a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was glad they still felt connected enough to want to share these moments with their mother. On the other hand, I couldn't help but wonder what Sarah would think when she saw me, with the girls, looking so comfortable together. But I pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the happiness on the girls' faces. Just as we finished up, my phone buzzed with a series of notifications. I glanced down and saw that the Harpies had texted me. "Grace, OMG, Sam, your pics with the girls are blowing up on social media. People are loving them. Olivia, seriously, it's like the cutest thing ever. Who knew you had such a natural mom vibe?
Wink.
Natalie, they're adorable. But you know what that means. Everyone's going to be talking about how you're settling down now." I checked Instagram. It was true the pictures I'd posted earlier with Lily and Maya had already gotten a lot of attention, but I hadn't expected them to blow up like this. "Samantha, what can I say? The girls are just that cute." "Grace, so, are you ready for tonight? What's the plan with Mr. Ruggedly Handsome?" "Olivia.
Yeah.
Are you going to make a move, or are we going to be stuck living vicariously through your dance pics?" "Natalie, also, more pics of you in that outfit, please. We need to see the whole look." For just a moment, I felt a bit of anxiety creeping in. We are just dancing. No big deal. Ethan doesn't have any expectations. "Samantha, I'm taking it slow, okay? But I'll definitely keep you all updated." I snapped a few more pictures of my outfit, posing playfully in the mirror with the hat tipped just so, and sent them to the Harpies. "Olivia, well, hello there Nebraska. Grace, he's not going to know what hit him. Seriously, you look amazing. Natalie, if he doesn't fall head over heels tonight, there's something wrong with him." My phone continued to buzz. "Olivia, Sam, you look absolutely stunning. Seriously, that outfit is killer. But you know what would make it even better?" I grinned, already anticipating their playful suggestions. "Samantha, what do you have in mind, Liv?" "Grace, you know, just a little something to spice it up. How about popping open a few of those buttons on your shirt? We all know how amazing your rack is." Natalie, totally agree. It adds that effortless, I'm just here to have a good time vibe. I also think you tie the bottom off to expose your midriff. Your stomach, your rank. He won't be able to resist. You'll look even more amazing. These girls were always full of ideas. That seemed a bit bold. "Samantha, you think? I don't want to overdo it." "Olivia, trust us, Sam. Just a couple of buttons, it'll look perfect. You'll be the hottest one at the bar, guaranteed." "Grace, exactly. It's all about the little details. You've got this, girl. Taking a deep breath, I turned to the mirror and carefully undid the top 2 buttons of my shirt. It was a small change, but it made a surprising difference. The outfit still looked classy and put together, but with a touch of playful charm that I had to admit, I liked. I sent another picture to the Harpies, showing off the updated look. All right, how's this? Their responses were instant. Natalie, yes. That's it, Sam. You look gorgeous. Olivia.
Fire!
Grace, now go out there and have some fun. And don't forget to tell us all the details later. Samantha, you guys are the best. I'll let you know how it goes. Olivia, and don't forget to take more pictures. We want to see how the night unfolds. Grace, and remember, just be yourself. With that final boost of confidence, I took a deep breath and turned away from the mirror, ready to face the night ahead. The Harpies were right, tonight was about having fun. Don't overthink it. Victoria. The family arrived at the house. Samantha and the girls headed to their rooms. Yes, I thought of it as their rooms. While Ethan and I made our way back to the house, I sensed a certain tension in him. The day had been filled with excitement and warmth, but now, as we prepared to check on James, our driver, something seemed to weigh on Ethan's mind. I led the way to the guest room where James was recovering. After the storm and the chaos that followed, I wanted to make sure he was comfortable and well. The good doctor had been calling, and I had Mia, one of the maids, making sure James was taken care of. It was the least I could do, the man has been my driver for 20 years. I knocked softly on the door, and James's voice called out for us to come in. We entered to find James propped up on pillows, looking better than I expected but still clearly recovering. The guest room was warm and inviting, with a tray of untouched food on the nightstand beside him. James, I greeted him with a smile, how are you feeling? James's face brightened when he saw us. Much better, thanks to you all, he said, his voice raspy but full of gratitude. It's good to see your face, my lady. You've been more than kind. And Ethan, I don't know if I said this the other night, but I can't thank you enough. You saved my life out there. Ethan nodded. Right place, right time. I did what anyone would do. Ethan's face took on a bit of color. The boy didn't know how to take a compliment. James chuckled softly. No, you did do more than most would. I've been in a few tough spots before, but nothing like that. You've got a good head on your shoulders, Ethan. I watched as Ethan gave a small, almost self-conscious smile. As we made to leave, Ethan turned to James and said, You're a good man, James. A good James. His tone was light, almost joking, but I noticed a slight edge to his words that piqued my interest. James looked a bit confused by the comment, but he smiled and nodded. Thank you, Ethan. Lady Harrington, my wife plans to come tomorrow. I hope that is acceptable. I was barely listening. Of course, James. I am happy to have Mindy here. Once we were out of the room and heading down the hall, I couldn't help but ask, what did you mean by a good James? Ethan hesitated, and I watched as his internal debate played out on his face. Finally, he sighed, as if resigning himself to the conversation. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It just popped into my head. It's nothing, really, he began, but I could tell there was more to it than that. I stopped walking and turned to face him, my curiosity getting the better of me. Ethan, if something's bothering you, you can talk to me. What's on your mind? He met my gaze, and for a moment, I saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the same vulnerability that I'd glimpsed earlier when he'd mentioned his ex-wife. It's just that my ex-wife left me for a guy named James. A rich guy. The kind of guy who has everything, or at least, everything she wants. I felt a pang of sympathy as he spoke. I knew more than should through conversations with the girls. I also knew there was more to his story than he was letting on. And they're still married? I asked gently. Ethan nodded, his jaw tightening slightly.
Yeah.
They're still married. The guy's got money, but... well, he's nothing special. Short, fat, balding. older, too. But that's what she wanted, security, I guess. Or maybe just the lifestyle that came with it. I saw the bitterness in his expression, the hurt that he was trying so hard to mask. It was clear that Sarah had left some deep scars on him, and the fact that she had chosen someone like James over him had only added salt to the wound. "Ethan," I said softly, reaching out to place a hand on his arm, "you're a good man. Anyone can see that. It's her loss, not yours." He looked at me, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of something, appreciation, perhaps, or maybe even relief. But then he nodded, his expression guarded once again. "Thanks, Victoria," he said quietly. "I appreciate that." After we left James's room, I could see Ethan was itching to get out for a bit. The way his shoulders relaxed just a touch when he mentioned needing to run to the store gave him away. He was a man who found solace in simple tasks, and I suspected he wanted some time to himself after everything. "Victoria," he began, his voice casual, "would it be all right if I borrowed your car to run to the store? I don't want to unhitch mine just for a quick trip." I raised an eyebrow, a small smile tugging at the corners of my lips. "You can use the car, Ethan, but on one condition." He tilted his head, curious. "What's that?" "You let me come with you," I said, leaving no room for argument. "I have a couple items to pick up from the grocery store, and besides, I'm curious about what you're planning to make for dinner." He hesitated for a moment, as if weighing whether to argue, but eventually nodded. "All right, if you don't mind coming along." As we walked toward the Escalade, I noticed how the tension seemed to ease from his shoulders, even if just a little. I understood the need for space, for moments of quiet after an intense day, but I was also determined not to let him retreat too far. He had a way of holding everything in, and it was clear to me that he needed someone to talk to, even if he didn't realize it. Once we were on the road, I decided to keep the conversation light. "So, what exactly do you have in mind for dinner?" He glanced over at me, a hint of a smile on his lips. "I'm thinking of making homemade pizza. The girls love it, and it's something we can all do together. And I'll make the pie for dessert." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "The pie?" "The girls mentioned this already. They said the pie, with something close to reverence." "So this pie, what is it?" Ethan chuckled softly, the sound warming the car's interior. "It's a triple chocolate coffee pie. The girls are obsessed with it. I usually save it for special occasions, but I think today qualifies." "That is very important information, Ethan. I cannot believe I am just now hearing about this." He shrugged, his hand steady on the wheel. "Just wait until you talk to the girls about their favorite titled dessert. Last year, Maya and Lily didn't talk to each other for a whole day because of how heated their conversation was about the pie and the cake. It was silly. Oh, and now there is a cake. Well, I look forward to all of these developments." Silence ensued. But it wasn't a bad thing. I found myself enjoying the comfortable silence that settled between us. It wasn't the awkward kind, but rather the sort of silence that comes when two people are simply content in each other's company. We pulled into the grocery store parking lot. He smiled at me as we stopped. I smiled back. It was strange how at ease was around him. It wasn't often that I truly relaxed in someone's company, especially not a man's. But with Ethan, everything just felt natural. It was then I realized a simple fact: I was comfortable, like completely comfortable around Ethan. It reminded me of someone. It reminded me of Henry, my dead husband. That gave me the shivers. We got out of the car, and without even noticing it, I found myself inching closer to Ethan. We walked through the store, grabbed a cart, and started picking out ingredients for the homemade pizza and that intriguing dessert. Conversation picked up and flowed easily, and I caught myself laughing with the occasional snort. It was very unladylike. I asked him about the toppings he preferred, and we discussed the best way to make a pizza crust. It was then I realized something else: I was flirting. I was flirting with this young man 12 years my junior, and I was sure he didn't even notice. In fact, that was the thing about Ethan: he didn't seem to realize the effect he had on people, especially women. We moved through the aisles, and it was impossible not to notice the glances he was getting. A few women, clearly locals, were giving him appreciative looks. One even did a double take when she saw him reach for a jar on the top shelf, his shirt pulling just tight enough to show the strength in his arms. Ethan, of course, was completely oblivious. He focused on the task at hand, checking items off his mental list, not paying any attention to the admiring gazes he was receiving. I found it endearing this man, so handsome and kind, had no idea how attractive he was. As we rounded the corner to the produce section, I spotted a young woman standing with a group of friends. She was petite, with sleek black hair that framed her face and traditional Asian features. Japanese maybe? I thought I heard speak a few phrases of Japanese, but that didn't really mean anything. The girl was dressed in designer clothing, a cream-colored blouse that clung to her frame and a pair of tight black jeans. Her friends were giggling and nudging each other as she glanced in our direction. I was amused. Before long, she seemed to gather her courage and made a beeline straight for Ethan. I observed, curious, as she approached him with a confident smile. "Excuse me," she said, her voice light and sweet, "but you look familiar. Do you have Instagram? I feel like I've seen you somewhere before." Ethan blinked, clearly surprised by the attention. No, I'm not sure what the Grammy is. But I assume it's some sort of social platform. But I don't really do social media." The girl Hannah, as I overheard one of her friends call her, looked momentarily thrown off, but quickly recovered. "Oh, that's a shame. Well, in case you ever want to connect, here's my number." She held out a small piece of paper, her manicured fingers brushing against his as she handed it to him. "Maybe we could grab coffee sometime?" I watched the exchange, a small part of me curious about how Ethan would respond. He looked at the paper, clearly a bit flustered, and then back at her. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind." Hannah's smile widened, clearly pleased with herself. "Great. I'm Hannah, by the way." She put out a hand. Ethan took it. "Ethan. It's nice to meet you, Hannah. That's a pretty name." "Thank you, Ethan. I think I like it even more now. It's nice to meet and I hope to hear from you." She turned to leave but gave him a little wave and walked back towards her group, swishing her butt back and forth in her retreat. She was greeted by her friends, were all smiles and whispers as they glanced back at him. Ethan stood there for a moment, still holding the paper, before tucking it into his pocket. He glanced over at me, looking a bit sheepish. That was unexpected. I couldn't help but laugh softly. "You have no idea how many people find you attractive, do you?" He shrugged. "It's funny that you say that. Trust me, that is an uncommon occurrence. I don't often get hit on. I cannot remember my last date. Somehow, I find that hard to believe." "Well, you should call her," I teased, giving him a playful nudge. "You might be surprised by how many people are interested in getting to know you." Ethan just shook his head, clearly not convinced, and we continued with our shopping. As we walked through the store, I played back their interaction in my head. Hannah had clearly been working up her nerve to talk to Ethan, which meant that she had observed us. So she noticed my flirting and either didn't care or didn't understand what I was doing. For some reason, I felt somewhat offended. Don't get me wrong, I am not so overt in my affections. But even with my subtlety, she should have known what I was up to. The fact that she ignored me meant she didn't think I was an obstacle like she could sweep in and just charm Ethan. I narrowed my eyes. Not to toot my own horn, but I was quite the prize back in the day, and I still look pretty damn good if you ask me. Hannah approached Ethan and didn't even acknowledge me. Actually, now that I think about it, it pisses me off. It's not like I am going to do anything about it. But still. We made our way back to the house, the car filled with bags of groceries. By the time I was halfway back, I decided that Hannah's and Ethan's interaction was actually quite amusing. Ethan had been so charmingly oblivious to the attention he was getting that he probably sent the girl into a bit of a tailspin. Young, beautiful, and rich. If her designer clothes proved anything, someone like that wasn't exactly grounded most of the time. Not like Samantha. I decided I would laugh about it. I did wonder if Ethan was going to call her. When we pulled into the driveway, Ethan offered to unload the groceries while I went inside to check on the girls. I agreed, though I couldn't help but watch him for a moment as he started unloading the bags, his strong, capable hands making quick work of it. Just as I was about to head inside, a familiar voice cut through the air, making me tense. "Victoria, darling. There you are." I turned to see Robert Montford striding up the driveway, his thin frame moving awkwardly. He was flanked by a few of his family members, his cousins. I recognized them from various events over the years, each one of them as middling and annoying as the next. They all had the same confident, almost arrogant air about them, the kind that came from years of wealth and privilege. "Robert," I greeted, keeping my voice polite but distant. "What brings you here?" Robert's smile was wide, but there was something predatory about it. "I heard you were in town and just had to come see you." "It's been too long, hasn't it?" I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Robert had always been like this, overly familiar, overly confident, and always pushing the boundaries of propriety. He stepped closer, his presence almost suffocating as he reached for my hand, but I subtly pulled back, maintaining a polite distance. "Yes, it has been a while," I replied coolly, hoping he would take the hint and back off. "But I've been quite busy." "Busy, indeed," Robert said, his gaze flicking to Ethan, who was still unloading the car. His eyes narrowed slightly, clearly sizing him up. "And who might this be?" "Ethan Miller," I introduced, stepping closer to Ethan's side. "He's been helping us out a lot recently." "A true gentleman." Ethan, sensing the tension, straightened up and offered a polite nod. "Nice to meet you." Robert's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "A pleasure, I'm sure." He turned his attention back to me, his tone a bit more insistent. "Victoria, darling, I am sure you are aware of the Manson ball. I noticed you didn't RSVP. This simply will not do. Lord Danforth is hosting, and you know how influential he is. I'm sure he'll be extending a personal invitation to you. My mother has also wanted to connect with you. As you probably know, my father has passed, and I think she was hoping to consult with you. The unspoken message, it's the kind of event one simply can't turn down." I felt a pang of irritation at Robert's presumption, but I kept my composure. He was right about one thing: Lord Danforth was a powerful figure, the kind of man whose invitation was more of a summons. I couldn't ignore a personal invitation, it would be disastrous socially, if not politically. Robert's mother wasn't much better. The Duchess of Ainsworth held massive political influence in her own right, and through her eldest son, who was a high-ranking figure in the House of Lords, and her son-in-law, who was a U.S. Senator. Damn. This was all that I needed. The idea of going to the ball in my current state, surrounded by people like Robert, was far from appealing, and of course, without my husband. I know this comes as a shock and that you likely lack an escort with the departure of your husband. I wanted to punch him. Everyone could hear the slight sneer in his voice. "I am here to rescue you, darling. Please allow me to escort you." That wasn't just a no. That was a hell no. But this was not good. He had planned this. He'd brought his family, so I would have a harder time refusing. Damn him. Still, I wasn't about to let Robert have the upper hand. I offered him a polite smile, one that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Thank you for letting me know, Robert, but I am aware of Lord Danforth's expectations. I had already planned on attending." Robert's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Oh. But how?" Good. I wasn't aware you had already made arrangements." "Yes," I replied, glancing at Ethan with a smile that was as much for his benefit as it was to get under Robert's skin. "Mr. Miller will be my date." The reaction was immediate. Robert's smile faltered, and the men with him exchanged surprised glances. It was clear they hadn't expected this, and I could see the wheels turning in Robert's mind as he tried to process the information. "Your date?" Robert repeated, his tone slightly incredulous. Yes, I said, my tone firm. Ethan and I have grown quite close recently, and I thought it would be nice to attend the ball together. Besides, he's proven to be quite the companion. Haven't you, Ethan? Ethan, to his credit, kept his expression neutral, though I could see the confusion in his eyes. He nodded, clearly uncertain of how to respond. Yes. Yes, of course, Lady Harrington. Robert's eyes narrowed slightly, his smile now more forced than genuine. Well, I see. I will simply see you at the ball, Victoria. I hope you have a good time. I could see that he was trying to recover, to regain some sense of control over the situation, but I wasn't about to let him. We will, thank you, Robert. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have some preparations to make. Robert opened his mouth as if to say something more, but he seemed to think better of it. He offered a tight smile and a nod. Of course. I'll see you both at the ball, then. As he and his entourage turned to leave, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The nerve of that man, always assuming he could manipulate situations to his advantage. But this time, I had the upper hand, and it felt good. Ethan looked at me, clearly still trying to make sense of what had just happened. So? We're going to a ball, then? Do I get my very own fairy godmother? I let out a nervous laugh at his bewildered expression. Yes, it seems we are. I hope you don't mind. If I had to suffer a whole night with that windbag, I might as well return myself to the sinking limo. Ethan shook his head, a small smile playing on his lips. Not at all. But you're going to have to help me figure out what to wear, and… I don't really dance. I grinned, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction. Don't worry, Ethan. I'll take care of everything.
Ethan. So I was going to a ball with Lady Harrington, and going dancing with Samantha. I had not been on a date since before my ex-wife dumped me. And now suddenly I didn't have one date but two. Though I wasn't sure I could count Samantha's, still my life had become very strange in the last few hours. Wasn't I supposed to be camping? What am I doing? I glanced up from the stove as Samantha walked into the kitchen. She almost made me drop what I was holding. She looked amazing, wearing a pair of dark skinny jeans that hugged her legs, hips, and but perfectly, a fitted plaid shirt that accentuated her figure, left a bit of her stomach exposed, and a wide leather belt that added a touch of rugged charm. Her brown cowboy boots completed the look, making her seem both effortlessly stylish and ready for anything. I smiled as she approached. You look great, Samantha, I said, meaning every word. Samantha's cheeks flushed a light pink, and she quickly glanced down at the counter as if she needed to busy herself with something. Thanks, Ethan, she replied, her voice softer than usual. Just trying to blend in with the country vibe. If she was trying to blend in, she was doing a terrible job. She stood out in the best possible way. But I didn't say that. Instead, I turned back to the pizza dough I was rolling out, trying to ignore the strange flutter in my chest. The girls soon came into the kitchen, their energy filling the space with laughter and excitement. They were clearly having a blast, and it warmed my heart to see them so happy. Lily and Maya were chatting about their day, and they barely took a breath before pulling out their phones to show Victoria all the pictures they had taken. Look, Aunt Victoria, here's one of us with Samantha by the old fountain, Lily said, holding up her phone. And this one is when we tried on our silly hats. Hey! Samantha said. Those were not silly, they were Prada. Maya shook her head. Lily laughed. They had feathers, Sam. They were silly. Victoria leaned in, her eyes lighting up as she scrolled through the pictures. These are wonderful, girls. It looks like you had such a fun day. We did. Maya chimed in. And wait until you see the pictures we posted. Everyone's loving them. I chuckled to myself as I watched them. Social media wasn't my thing, but it clearly brought them a lot of joy. As long as they were happy and safe, I couldn't complain. Still, I needed to make sure that parent lock stuff was working. The internet is a dangerous place. Samantha moved closer to the counter, grabbing a plate to help me with the pizzas. I caught a whiff of her perfume, something floral and sweet, but not overpowering. It made me glance at her again. Her butt was amazing. I was a sucker for a woman with some curves, and Samantha had them in spades. She caught me looking and smiled, her cheeks still tinged with that light blush. I returned the smile and handed her a slice of pizza. "I hope you're hungry." She laughed, taking the plate from me. "Starving." We all sat down to eat, and the kitchen was soon filled with the sounds of happy chatter and laughter. The girls took pictures of everything, even the pizza, and the joy I felt at how much they were enjoying themselves was indescribable. Victoria joined in the fun, leaning over to take a selfie with the girls, and even I was roped into a few group shots. After we'd polished off the pizzas, I went back to the kitchen to retrieve the main event, the pie. It was something I made only on special occasions, a triple chocolate coffee pie that was rich enough to make your teeth hurt but impossible to resist. The girls' eyes lit up the moment they saw it, and I couldn't help but grin. "You really outdid yourself, Dad," Maya exclaimed as I placed the pie in the center of the table. "I've been waiting for my whole life," Lily added, practically bouncing in her seat. Samantha leaned in, her eyes wide with curiosity. "The pie, huh? What makes it so special?" "Just wait until you taste it," I said with a wink. "It's a secret recipe, so I can't give away all the details, but let's just say it's worth every calorie." The women let out a collective ooh and ah as I sliced into the pie, the rich chocolate filling oozing out with just the right amount of gooiness. I served everyone a slice, and the room fell silent as they took their first bites. "This is incredible," Samantha finally said, her voice full of genuine awe. "I've never tasted anything like it." Victoria nodded in agreement, her eyes wide with surprise. "Ethan, this is absolutely divine. I think you just earned my hand in marriage." I shrugged, feeling a little bashful under their praise. "I'm just glad you like it. It's something special I like to make for the girls." As the meal wound down and everyone was thoroughly stuffed with pizza and pie, I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. Pulling it out, I glanced at the screen and felt my stomach drop. It was a text from Sarah, and the tone was unmistakably angry. "Why are the girls in Silver Ridge? Call me immediately." I stared at the message for a moment, the familiar knot of frustration tightening in my chest. I didn't want to deal with this right now, not when the girls were so happy and things were going so well. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, deciding to ignore it for the time being. Sarah could wait. I wasn't going to let her ruin this moment for us. "Everything okay?" Samantha asked, noticing the brief change in my expression. I forced a smile and nodded. "Yeah, everything's fine. Just some work stuff. Nothing that can't wait." She gave me a sympathetic look but didn't press further, and for that, I was grateful. The last thing I wanted was to bring any negativity into this evening. "Let's clean up and get ready for tonight," I said, trying to shake off the lingering tension. "The Rusty Spur awaits." The girls cheered at the mention of the bar, their excitement contagious. As we cleared the table and washed the dishes, I found myself looking forward to the night ahead. A little country music, some good company, it might just be exactly what I needed.
Samantha. As I walked into the kitchen, I caught sight of Ethan standing by the stove, his back to me as he carefully sliced a pizza. When he turned around and saw me, his eyes widened slightly, and a slow, appreciative smile spread across his face. "You look great, Samantha," he said, his voice warm and genuine. I felt my cheeks flush at the compliment, an unexpected rush of warmth spreading through me. I wasn't usually one to get flustered, but there was something about the way Ethan looked at me like he really saw me, not just the model or the public figure, but me, that made it hard to keep my cool. "Thanks, Ethan," I managed to say, hoping my voice didn't betray how flustered I was. "Just trying to fit in with the country vibe." He smiled again, that easy, genuine smile that made my heart flutter. I quickly busied myself with grabbing a plate, trying to distract myself from the way my stomach was doing little flips. Why did he have to be so damn charming without even trying? As the meal progressed, I found myself continuously impressed by Ethan's cooking. The pizza was amazing, the crust perfectly crispy, the toppings just right. But it was the pie that really blew me away. When Ethan brought it out, the girls practically squealed with excitement, and I couldn't help but grin at their enthusiasm. "This is incredible," I said after taking my first bite of the pie. It was rich, decadent, and absolutely delicious. I'd had my fair share of fancy desserts, but this one was something else entirely. I've never tasted anything like it. Victoria, sitting across from me, nodded in agreement. "It's divine, Ethan. I think you might have just earned my hand in marriage." Ethan shrugged, clearly pleased by our reactions. "I'm just glad you like it." Before I realized it, I pulled out my phone and started taking more pictures of the plates of food. The harpies had been blowing up my phone with messages since I'd sent them the earlier pictures, and I knew they'd want to see more. "Samantha, just had the most amazing dinner, and guess what? Ethan made us the pie." Seriously, I might actually ask him to marry me, and damn the consequences. Or maybe I'll just lock him up in my basement. Do any of you know how to DIY a dungeon? Olivia, already considering kidnapping. This is serious. Wait, what? They actually gave it a title? They call it the pie? Grace, is that coffee and chocolate I see? Marry him. Actually, let me marry him. Natalie, I am literally without words. What does this guy do for a job? I laughed to myself and sent them a few more pictures. They responded with heart emojis and more jokes about kidnapping Ethan. I grinned. Like a fool, I might add. The meal wound down. I ate too much. Then I helped clear the table and joined Victoria and the girls in the living room. We were all still buzzing from the food and the fun of the day, and the girls were showing Victoria more pictures from earlier, their laughter filling the room. "Dad is amazing," I heard Lily say as she swiped through the pictures. "He can do anything." Maya nodded enthusiastically.
Yeah.
And the pie was so good. Did you like it, Aunt Victoria? Victoria smiled warmly at the girls, clearly enjoying their excitement. I did, and it was absolutely delicious. Your dad is quite the chef. As they continued chatting, I felt my mind wander. When was the last time I had such a fun day? When I wasn't worried about an event, a cause, a guy. I can't even remember. And then I heard a sound behind me, and I turned to see Ethan walking into the living room. My breath caught in my throat. He was wearing something very similar to what I had on, a fitted plaid shirt that showed off his broad shoulders and chest, dark jeans that hugged his muscular legs just right, and a cowboy hat perched on his head. He'd trimmed his beard, and his long hair was pulled back, giving him a hearty yet polished look. He looked incredible. Everyone just stared at him. He fidgeted a bit. I bought the hat earlier. He smiled. I think I like it. Victoria and I exchanged a quick glance. Clearly, she was just as speechless as I was. Ethan was attractive, there was no doubt about that, but seeing him like this, all cleaned up and dressed in something that accentuated just how strong and fit he was, it was almost too much to handle. You look amazing, Dad. Lily exclaimed, jumping up from her seat to give him a hug. Maya quickly followed, beaming up at him.
Yeah.
Someone is going to try to wrangle you up. Ethan chuckled, clearly a bit embarrassed by the attention. Seriously, Maya? Wrangle me up? You were stretching on that one. Maya lifted her head indignantly. Father, you lack poetry in your soul. He rolled his eyes. I laughed softly, shaking my head in disbelief. Ethan, you look so good. He gave me a shy smile, adjusting the hat on his head. Well, thank you kindly, Mama. I wasn't sure if I pulled it off. Victoria finally found her voice. Oh, you definitely pulled it off, Ethan. You look like you were made for that outfit. Ethan blushed at the praise. I just hope I don't embarrass you tonight. I'm not much for dancing, remember? Lily piped up, don't worry, Dad. You'll do great. And if not, you can just stand there and look cool. We all laughed at that, and I felt the last of my nervousness melt away. Tonight was going to be fun, and I couldn't wait to see how it all played out. As we got ready to head out, I caught Victoria's eye again. There was a knowing smile on her lips, and I had a feeling she was thinking the same thing I was, that tonight was going to be more interesting than any of us had anticipated.